Hi, dear language learners. Today I've got something great for you. Let me put you to the test. I have prepared 3 questions for you that will you put back into progress in language learning and will speed you up in terms of reaching your goal, fluency. So imagine if finally you were able to speak in that language that you have been studying and engage in really nice conversations with those who are speaking it fluently. So the thing is, actually, these 3 questions are my 3 go-to questions whenever one of my students comes up to me, and this unfortunately happens quite often, that they are saying, "Oh, I really love your courses, but I'm just not making progress. I feel I can't make progress." And whenever that word pops out of their mouth, I ask them these 3 questions because you need to switch back into progress mode in order to accelerate. And actually, these 3 questions are like a remedy against a widespread phenomenon, what I call the perfectionist mindset in language learning. That actually, this is the root cause, this kind of focus on perfectionism that actually blocks you completely. It puts you into well, in non-speaking mode, it puts you into, well, let's see, it comes later. And it also makes you go into procrastination directly because when you wait for that moment of perfectionism, that, by the way, also doesn't happen for native speakers. No native speakers speaks perfectly. It doesn't exist. So when you wait for that moment, basically, you will always procrastinate, put it up to the next day, and you will never speak. So bear with me. These questions, if you have 5 minutes to bear, they will change your view on how you study languages. Welcome also to those of you who are new here. This is my passion project channel. I'm Dr. Alex. I actually share with you the fundamental laws of social psychology to have you study languages or learn languages in a far more brain healthy, in a far more fun and enjoyable way, and with the aim to have you speak with unshakable confidence. And if you haven't yet, please download my study routine planner. It is for the whole of this month still, it is on a reduced price because I just launched it. And this will help you, actually goes together nicely with these 3 questions we're going to see. It helps you to build your ideal study routine. And as always, drop me your comments. What are your go-to habits in your study routine? Because it's all about also lifting each other up, helping each other in our language learning journeys. And as those of you who know me already, you will know I'm studying my 5th language at the moment. It is Italian. And I'm also myself always grateful for new hints about, oh, have you tried that? Have you tried that? I'm so glad because I love these social platforms, especially YouTube. I love to share knowledge and to have that community internationally to share our tips and tricks about studying languages. But now, without further ado, let's start. Here is number 1, and try to be as self-honest and self-aware as possible when you answer these questions. Number 1 is, do you have in place progress-oriented goals versus perfectionist goals? So here's an example for a perfectionist goal. Perfectionist goal is, I want to actually, I had that recently. A student of mine said that for the Spanish course I was giving. She said, "Je voudrais perfectionner mon espagnol." Okay, this is obviously there's the word perfectionism already in the word, but this is a goal that will not help you because if you focus on becoming perfect in Spanish, it means you will put off as the maximum time that moment when you will actually speak. I give you some examples of progress-oriented goals that will get you out of that blockage. So, for example, my goal at the moment is I will watch at least one 5-minute segment of a YouTube video or podcast of some of my favorite people in my target language, so in Italian. At least 5 minutes per day. That's one goal. And then also my aim is to focus on and also to repeat one sentence per day. It can be also a sentence I studied 6 months ago, but at least one sentence of Italian needs to be in my brain daily that I actually practice speaking. These two goals I stick to as a kind of, this is my routine. And I usually use in my morning routine or in my evening wind down routine. I don't know, if I walk my dog, for example, to recall that sentence. And as you know as well, this is the basic social psychology behind it. It always needs to be a sentence that is high frequency, so you use it a lot in your real life as well, in your in your mother tongue, or it needs to be a sentence that you can use the next day. So something that you actually want to say. You need to have an intention to communicate. So if I have an appointment with a client or with students the next day, and I would say something to them in French, I think, okay, how would I say the same thing now in Italian? So there I have my sentence. And then also my aim is to not do more than that, because whatever I do more, I will just waste time because I will not retain it. It's not like that. The brain doesn't study like that. You won't be able to memorize 10,000 sentences per day. It's not possible. So that is the question number one. Write down your goals. What are your goals for your language? And focus on or analyze them yourself. Okay, are they progress oriented? Do they show me what I have to do in a day? Or do they just kind of relate to that dream of being perfectly speaking in 10 years? No. If you have the latter, please revise your goals and set very concrete goals, what you will start doing the next day. It needs to be progress oriented, meaning focusing on the process, on the habit, what you're actually doing in the day. That is your goal. Okay, that's number one. So I really recommend you write them down because it's an exercise I want to give to you to start taking this kind of, how can I call that? It's not responsibility because you already have taken responsibility for your learning. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. But it's kind of taking charge. Yes, taking charge of that daily routine. And that leads me to the next question is, do you have a nano routine in place? Do you have one? Meaning, the principle is language learning needs to nicely blend into your daily routine. It should not be something that is something, another thing on your plate. If you think about that as language learning as another thing on your plate, something that is not enjoyable, that is not part of your life, forget about it. That's my clear and direct advice. You need to have something that blends into your daily routine. So language learning needs to fit and flow into your life for the aim to make it sustainable in the long term. I mean, to become fluent is for people who grew up monolingually like me, it's at least 2 years. So you need to have something that is integrated into your life in a joyful way, in a daily kind of habit-like thing. It's the same like you probably have also a routine of going about cooking or grocery, food shopping. The same applies to language learning. It needs to be included in a nano routine. And if you want to have more help with that, please download your copy of the study routine planner. It gives you all the tricks and tips from social psychology to plan your daily habits. So that's the second one. The third one is, do you actually follow the 3-step practice? Please also watch my previous videos on these 3 steps that need, or 3 ingredients. I call it also the magic ingredients of social psychology that need to be in place when you go about your routine so that your retention, your memory will happen in a more accelerated and more efficient way. It's all about activating that relevance to your real life. So watch my video on the magic ingredients of social psychology to retain words and sentences in context. So what are the 3 steps? it is basically you need to have one element of passive intake. So as I mentioned before, for me, I need to listen to a favorite podcast, watch at least 5 minutes of a favorite YouTube influencer that I'm, subscribed to. You can also watch a film or something that surrounds you passively with a language. That's the one ingredient. The second step or the second ingredient is it needs to be related to your real life. So without the intention to communicate something anyway in your life, you will not memorize that fast. So pick a sentence that really relates to what you would say in your native tongue as well, and focus on that. And this is so when I say pick a sentence, meaning not just reading it, speaking it. The important thing is, and that's the second step, it's actually speaking practice. So you need to practice the mouth movements of the new language. For example, in French, obviously, you need to practice saying the nasal sounds. It's a complete different mouth movement than in English, in German, in Spanish. And you need to switch to that. And that is the speaking practice, the speaking habit, actually. It's like practicing singing or practicing playing an instrument. You need to practice the mouth movements. So that's the second step. And the third one is the grammar check when you need it for something that you want to communicate. So I invite you also to watch my video on grammar. Grammar is highly useful, but it needs to be used whenever you have a motivation to clarify how to say something in a certain context. So let's say I want to say in Italian, thanks so much for the invitation. Sounds lovely, but I can't make it. If I have that need and I still don't know how I use the conditional tense, like I would love to make it. I actually learned that yesterday. It was mi piacerebbe. Mi piacerebbe. If you don't know that construction, yeah, you need to look up the conditional tense. So I looked up the conditional tense to formulate that sentence because I needed that for a real context where unfortunately I had to decline an invitation. So always relate to a context of your real life, and also always ask yourself, it needs to be high frequency sentences that you need in your daily life, in any case. So you could also say to yourself, what do I need tomorrow? What is something that I will say tomorrow to somebody? Okay, translate that sentence in your head and try to then look up the grammar. So I summarize, the 3-step practice is basically an element of passive intake, an element of practicing the mouth movement. So you need to speak daily, and you need to have a grammar check if you still don't know, if you're not sure about the structure. Okay, so and now finally, it's always also about the experience sharing. Please share with me how you go about building, creating that study routine. I'm so excited to have always that wonderful feedback from you, and please keep the comments coming in. This is what YouTube is about, experience sharing around our passions. So let me know what works in your study routines. I'm always so happy to be inspired by you. And thanks as always for watching. It was lovely to have spent that moment with you.